Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to share with you a review of the new Tartelette Toasted palette. I've been looking forward to this palette for months, so I'm super excited to review it for you guys. I'm also going to be sharing a quick demo of my eye look today. It's super quick and easy using this palette. I'm going to swatch all the shades. I'm going to compare it to the Tartelette in Bloom and the Naked Heat palette. So if you guys are interested in hearing more about this new Tarte palette, then just keep on watching. Alright, so the new Tarte Toasted palette is available on the Tarte website for $46. It's the same price, same size as the other Tartelette palettes. And it will be available at Ulta and Sephora online on October 29th, and I believe in stores in November. And in here you get 12 shadows. It's 0.63 ounces of product. And it says online that it's 7 mattes and 5 shimmers. I like to think that this shade Crackle is more of like a shimmer. It is matte, but it has like some gold chunks in it, but it's basically half and half matte and shimmer, which is more shimmery than their previous palettes. The first one was all matte, and then the Tartelette in Bloom only has 3 shimmer shades in here. So I was really excited about this because it's really shimmery. It's really like warm tone, neutral. It's like every other warm neutral palette, but for some reason this palette really caught my attention. And I think partially because I love the Tartelette in Bloom, but this palette is more cool tone. It has more like cranberry shades, and I really wanted this palette to exist. Like, I always thought that they should make like their next palette more warm and have more brown shades, more orangey shades, and that's exactly what happened. So I'm really happy with the colors in here. I'm gonna go ahead and get into all of the swatches, and I'll let you guys know my thoughts about the formula as I'm swatching. So I'm actually gonna start off with the last one. I'm gonna start off with the darkest shade, and this shade is called Fireside, and this is like a matte eggplant color. I just love the Tarte formula for matte shades. It's really pigmented. It's really like there, and it does have like that purpley tone to it. And then we have shimmer, and this is kind of like in my lower lash line. I think this shade is gorgeous. It's like a coppery gold color, and it's really pigmented. It's just a very staple neutral shade to me. It's not too orange, which I like because you could wear it like on a daily basis. And then we have Latte, and this is my favorite transition shade because you guys can see like some of the other transition shades are more orangey, but this one is definitely more neutral. It's this shade, and this is like my ideal transition shade like for basically every look that I do, even if it's not warm. I really like this shade because it's kind of neutral, but it still has a little bit of that warmer tone, so it doesn't look muddy on me. It's a color that really flatters me because I do have a warmer complexion. And next we have Candle, and this is the worst shade in this palette. It's so chunky. It looks really pretty. Like, it's a really pretty color. So chunky. It's literally the texture of sand. I don't know if you guys can see when I swatch it. It's like so gritty, and I don't know why, and I'm just really disappointed by it because like I need this shade in the palette as like an all over lid color, something that's like very neutral, very natural, but it's just so chunky and it just crumbles away like into a powder, which I hate. When I put this on my lid, basically by the end of the day, like all the shimmer disappeared, and it was just like a basic like white beige shade on my lid. All the shimmer was gone. And of course you could use it with Fix Plus, but even so, it goes onto your eyes like really chunky and thick, so it doesn't go smooth onto your eyes. Like, I have a shadow on with Fix Plus today, and it's like very smooth, very metallic, but that one, it just is like a thick paste of eyeshadow on my eye because the texture is so dry and so like gritty. And then next we have Cozy. I love warm shades like this, like a deeper fudgy brown that has a little bit of a red tone to it. It's just like a gorgeous matte shade. I always love shades like this in a palette. And then also Flame, which is more of like a metallic coppery burgundy shade. It has more of like that red tone to it without being like super intensely red. It's still kind of neutral. And then Warmth, I think I put this, no, I'm not wearing it today, but this is a good transition shade as well. It is more of like a peanut butter color, more orangey. But I do like that the transition shades that are orange in this palette aren't like super bright orange intense. They're a very wearable orange, and that's a little bit of a lighter shade too. Then we have Cashmere, and this is like a very light peachy transition shade. It's very, very light. I did use this as a transition shade. I have been, but it's something that doesn't make like a huge difference on my skin tone. You guys can see it basically blends into my skin tone. It's just a little bit more peachy. And then we have the shade Crackle. And this is like a brown, deep brown shade that's a little warm. And you can see there's like a gold glitter reflect in it. I have it in my inner corner or outer corner today. That's how I've been wearing it. And the gold basically like goes away when you apply it on your eye. You get a little bit of it, but it's definitely not like a shimmery brown. It's more matte that has a little bit of a glitter in it. And then this shade Sunset is all over my lid today. It's like that copper kind of penny color. It's a little bit more of a bronze gold. Something that's like really neutral on the eyes. I just love that shade too. And then the next shade is Sunrise. This is like a satin kind of yellowy tone. It's more of like a inner corner highlight. That's how I have it on today. Brow bone highlight. Really like that shade because I don't like a very shimmery color on my brow bone. And then lastly, we have the shade S'mores. This is just a matte, like eggshell color, something that I use to set my eyes. You could also use this like on the lid if you want like a really matte eye look, something that's just like this shade and then some of the darker shades in your crease. So those are all the shades. They're very neutral, a lot of brown tones, some orangey tones, a couple peachy tones, and like one or two cranberry type of tones. But mostly, like if you take these away, it's basically like a neutral brown palette with a little bit of orange here and there. Very warm for sure, but definitely very neutral as well. So those are all 12 shades. You get a good variety. You get enough like dark shades, transition shades, and shimmer shades. So that's what I really like about it, that it's really well balanced in the color selection. And you could definitely create a lot of different eye looks with this palette because you have a lot of mattes, a lot of shimmers. You can add a lot of variety with this palette. So I'm gonna go ahead into the demo so you guys can see how I created my eye look today using this palette. All right, so going in with the palette, I'm gonna start off with the shade called S'mores. It's just like a white, more of like an eggshell color to set my eyes, and my eyes are already primed. It's just like a really light base. I'm gonna do two transition shades. I'm gonna start off with Cashmere. I really like this one because it's more of like a light peachy one, but it's also not so orangey or anything. So even though I'm not gonna do like a really peachy look, it still adds a little dimension to my eyes. So I'm just going in with a Sigma E40. And you guys can maybe see there's a little bit of fallout there, but it's not anything crazy. And it's just like a really light, natural color. It's not gonna do too much on me because it is more fair on me. But if you do have really fair skin, I think that this would be really show up as a transition shade. So this one is the shade Latte. And even though there's a lot of fallout in the pan, when I apply it on my face, it's not like fallout all over my face at all. So that's what I care about more than actual like fallout in the pan. I'm just gonna build that up into my crease and into my upper crease a little bit because it's not a very dark shade. I'm gonna add a little bit of a darker shade in like my outer V in a minute. All right, so the two shades that I used for transition are gonna give you more of a natural look. If you want something that's deeper, definitely go in with Warmth or Cozy, or a mix of both of those if you want more of like a nighttime look, but I wanted something a little bit more natural. On my eyes, I'm gonna apply this shade Sunset. That's like a coppery bronze color. I'm gonna go in with some Fix Plus, but I'm gonna apply it without Fix Plus on a dry brush first to show you guys the pigmentation without wetting my brush at all. So you can see it's basically like very natural and very subtle. If I go in with my finger, it'll be a little bit more pigmented, but for the color payoff that I want, I'm gonna go in with some MAC Fix Plus. I'm gonna build it on the other eye first so you guys can see the difference. Already super intense with a wet brush versus a dry brush on this side, and that's the same case for all the shimmers if you guys are curious. I definitely recommend using a wet brush if you want like a very metallic look. This still looks pretty if you want like an everyday natural look, but you know I like super shimmery metallic on my lid especially. So going over the other side with a wet brush. And I do love this shade. This is like such an ideal color, especially with this look with the palette. This is like something you could definitely wear year round and not just fall, because it's not like super orangey. Of course you could do that all year round, but I think that this is really flattering for like an everyday look, just like any time of year basically. And you could leave it like this and just go in with your crease brush to blend out the edges, and then you have like a really nice daytime look. I'm gonna go in and clean up my brow bone in a second because there is like orange all the way up to my eyebrow, but I always clean that up at the end. And if you want to intensify it, which I will do right now, I'm using a more tapered crease brush if I can find it. And the shade that I really like is called Crackle. It's this like brown shade that has gold shimmer in it. And it's basically a matte brown and it has like gold glitter. And I didn't think I would like that, but I actually really like it, because the glitter does pop out on top and it doesn't look too glittery. So I'm just gonna press that into the outer edge of my eye. I don't want to pick up too much of the product. And then just press it into like my outer V and into my crease. I just really like that. I feel like that's a really nice like nighttime look, and how you can easily take like what I had before and just turn it into nighttime look with just like one shadow in like 30 seconds. All right, so I'm basically gonna stop there, but if you want to make it a little bit more red, definitely just add that into the crease too. Or instead of using the brown shade, you could use the purple to make it more warm. You can kind of like mix it up. I'm just going to clean up my edges a little bit here because I have like orange that's kind of coming down beyond my eye space right there. And I'm just gonna add in the shade Sunrise. This is just like a satin shade that's a really pretty brow bone inner corner color. Just something really natural that still looks glowy. All right, so that's just like a 5-minute bronzy eye with this palette. What I want to do is just add, let's go in with Crackle on the lower lash line. Just keep that like brown coppery thing going on. Otherwise you can add Fireside, which is like that eggplant color, if you want like a different color on the lower lash line. And my eyes are basically done. I'm just gonna pop on some mascara and lashes, and yeah, that's just like a really quick and easy eye look with this palette. All right, so I find that the palette is definitely really easy to work with. It's really beginner friendly because it is so neutral, and even though you have some bolder shades in there, you can use some of the lighter transition shades or use some of the lighter lid colors and just play it in there however you want, and not like really commit to a like red blown out smoky eye. You can add a little bit of color in there or just keep it completely neutral, so you do get a good variety with these shades. The formula to me is the same as the Tarte Bloom palette, the Tarte Pro palette, and if you're not familiar with the Tarte shadows, I really do like them. They go on really nicely, especially the matte shades. So like I showed you guys in the demo, you do get some kick up with the matte shades especially, but it's not like crazy intense. When you go to apply it on your eyes, it's not going to be like a ton of fallout down your face or pigmentation all over the place or anything. It's just really in the pan especially. I've been doing my foundation before my eyes for the past couple days with this palette, and I haven't had an issue. Any little fallout just like wipes away really quickly. It doesn't make like a mess or anything. The biggest issue for sure with this palette is the shade Candle, and I'm actually really disappointed in it because to me this is a shade that I wear on my lid like all the time. I always wear like a champagne color. I feel like that really opens up my eyes, and that's really gonna like limit how I use this palette. I'm gonna use all the shades, but that's like my go-to eye look is this on my lid, and then any of the other shades for transition. But because even with Fix Plus I can't get this shade to look like super pigmented and metallic, that's definitely gonna limit how much I use this palette, because I was really thinking that because it has that shade in there for like an everyday or like a super minimal natural look where I don't want to commit to like a bronzy eye or something really copper for like a 5-minute makeup look, this was going to be like my go-to palette that I could travel with and not bring anything else. I can still do that, but some days I just want like such a minimal like shimmery look that doesn't look like a lot of color on my eyes. So that is definitely a disappointment in the palette because I think that's like a go-to lid color for a lot of people as well. But the rest of the shades work really nicely. The shimmers are a little drier. That's what I always find with some of the Tarte palettes, that they're not like super foiled off the bat. But if you add Fix Plus, and that's what I always do to my shadows, they get really metallic, really foiled, and they stay put all day. So to me, that's not an issue. I showed you guys in my demo that the shimmer shade does not go on like super pigmented with a dry brush, but if you use your finger, you get a little bit more color payoff, and then with Fix Plus, you can definitely get a really foiled, beautiful look. So overall, I really do like the colors. I do like this palette a lot. It does live up to my expectations, except for that one shade, which I'm really mad about, but I wanted to go ahead and compare it to some of the other palettes. I already mentioned the Tartelette in Bloom a little bit. So this palette was definitely a lot more cool tone. You only get 3 shimmer shades in here, and one of them is cool tone, like this whole bottom row, and then you have a cranberry row, and then something that's more neutral in the center. But this is very more cranberry, and then you get some cool shades, and even the browns in here are a little bit more cool. So I do love this palette, but the shades in here are definitely completely different. This is basically all warm oranges, browns, and peach tones. So the shade selections are very different. Even the shimmer shades, none of them are completely identical. This shade Firecracker in the center is more of that bronzy tone, very similar to the shade Sunset that I'm wearing today. But this one is a bit more warm compared to Firecracker. And then the other 2 similarities are basically just this shade Fireside and then this shade Leader at the bottom here. Those are really the only shades that are like really similar, but everything else is pretty different. You're gonna get a very different look. You get some more neutral, like mid-tone colors in the Tartelette in Bloom, but they're definitely not as warm as the ones in the Tartelette Toasted. And then a lot of people have also been comparing this palette to the Naked Heat palette, and I'm not gonna get into too much detail because I feel like a lot of that is out there already, but I did see a swatch comparison picture on Instagram that was really good. I'll leave it up here so you guys can see a swatch comparison, and I'll link that picture down below too, so if you want to see close-ups of swatches, you guys can have that for reference. But let me just tell you my thoughts about both of these compared to each other. Basically, I think of this as like the nighttime version of this. I think that you can get a lot more daytime, just very everyday, simple looks with this palette compared to this one. I don't find myself reaching for this for like an everyday natural look at all. Basically, I want to commit to more of like a orange look or something that's like really burgundy, something a little bit deeper, and plum looks in this palette, where in the Tartelette Toasted you're going to get more like natural daytime looks. You'll see that a lot of the shades are really similar, but basically you get a lot more darker tones with this palette compared to this one. All the light shades in this palette start really light, but then the lighter shades in the Naked Heat palette, especially these matte shades in here, they are still warm, but they're more of like brown tones. And then the matte shades in the Tartelette Toasted palette, they do have some brown in them, but most of them are a little bit more peachy and less just like straight brown colors. So I really like to think of it as more of like an everyday palette with this one that is more warm tone, and then more of like those fiery looks, and you also get some more deeper purple shades. Really, you just get like this purpley matte shade in here, and you do get this like bronzy reddish tone in here too, but even so, it's not like super purple or anything. You guys will see it still has more of that orange hint to it. Okay, so I wasn't gonna swatch everything, but I just got like really excited about it. So the shade Flame that I was mentioning, that is the shade up here that is a bit lighter, and then we have Dirty Talk in the Naked Heat. So basically what I find with the Tartelette Toasted, even those warm like shimmery shades, they're still lighter, and then you get like deeper colors like this. It doesn't look like that much deeper on camera, but it is a few shades darker in the Naked Heat palette. And then I'll also just show you this shade Lumber in the Naked Heat palette. This one is still more of like a red tone. This is the lightest shimmer shade in the Naked Heat palette, and then these are the 2 lighter shimmer shades, and then Candle, I'll swatch that too so you guys can see Those are all the lighter shimmer shades in the Tartelette Toasted palette. So you guys can see it's like more of like a coppery tone palette, and then the Naked Heat palette, this shade and this shade, like they're very red. You got some purples in there. So it's definitely more of like a red based palette, and then more peachy and brown for the Tartelette Toasted palette. And then also in the Tarte palettes, you get the same amount of product, 0.63 ounces. These are both $46. And then in the Naked Heat palette, you get a little bit less product, 0.60 ounces. So it's roughly the same, just like slightly less. And then this is $54. So you're paying $8 more for this palette, and it's a little bit less product compared to this one. I find them pretty different. You could get very similar looks with both, but this is more of like a daytime, more wearable palette, at least to me, compared to the Naked Heat. I just think of this as like really fiery looks and just more of like a warm neutral palette with the Tartelette Toasted. Alright guys, so that's everything for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this review of the Tartelette Toasted palette. Let me know if you picked it up in the comments down below, or if you have any of the other palettes I mentioned in the comments. I'll have them all listed in my description box as well. And if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll talk to you guys soon in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.